All right. What's up, everyone? Sorry, I was going live on Tickety Talks. We are absolutely killing it on the market right now. We got, let's go ahead and pull this up here. Actually, you know what? We'll just show my place. This is what we have, subscribers looking at. We set up, Apple puts, set up Tesla puts. These are up 30% right now. Apple puts are up 30% as well. We're looking for further targets to the downside for Apple. I mean, we're absolutely printing. I'll be honest. I didn't expect. Oh. Let me change the title of the stream real quick. Lots of people will say, oh, let me also change. There we go. We set up these plays for subscribers. I called it out on Twitter too. Or X. I mean, look how great this was. What a great way to end the week. Just a great way to end the week. The market's trying so hard to fight the downtrend. Trying so hard to fight the capitulation. But this is beautiful. Where is everyone? It's Friday Payday. We got no one in the chats, nothing. We've made a killing off shorting Apple. This week has been amazing. I forgot I was live on TikTok and my phone's right in front of my face. I'm live on YouTube where you can see the charts. You can see the plays. I've been calling stuff out on X as well. And it's been beautiful. Wonderful way to end the year. This market has been cooking up higher. People were giving me shit because I was buying puts into the melt up because they don't understand implied volatility. They don't understand the basics. And those plays that were bleeding that people were complaining about bounced back to life for amazing profits. We made like 500% earlier this week in total shorting the SPY on some short-term weekly contracts, currently shorting Apple and Tesla as well. I posted on X this morning, and everyone's like, oh, there's not enough liquidity for the market. Which, to be fair, you know, into the holidays, typically you don't get moves like this. You don't get the signals. But I saw the setup, just followed the process, and we made a good amount of money. A great way to end the year. Just follow the process. The Uber shorts are also coming back. The one thing that's been fighting is just, I don't know what's going on with Coinbase. Coinbase is something else. Coinbase is insane. This thing just wants to go. I guess this thing wants to go to 200 at this point. I mean, we're up 4% on the day. I mean, just look at that move we've had since October. It's just, I mean, it's crazy. And I was long this stock coming in September. And, I mean, I guess I paper handed it. I mean, I don't know how you hold through all of that, to be honest. But, yeah, I mean, it also came in and tried to short it and basically licked my wounds on that one. it just played into the winners, which actually working, which actually turning over. FedEx might be another loser, but I set that up, and even when I set it up, I told people in the Discord, it looks very weak. Like, it looks like we could have one more plunge to the downside. Even right now, it doesn't. You couldn't say that the trade won't play out because this no volume day trading and inside ranges. Hard to say. It could still play out here and turn over. I think you got reasonable risk reward to play it on the downside. It just doesn't look as clean as like Apple or Tesla or Uber. I think shorting Uber is great after getting added to the S&P. I think there should be a lot of profit taking that occurs once we're out of this seasonality. Once we're out of the seasonality of just, oh, it's Christmas, so buy everything. People are addicted to buying all-time highs. They want to play the trend until it breaks, but usually when it breaks, they get their face ripped off like they did earlier this week on the giant plunge on SPY. Is what it is. Some people never learn. So I think, just played it amazing right now. I think we should take note of the fact that TLT is finally getting a pullback. We pushed to another low. I'd like to see this thing pull back to like 80 or so. It'd be great. This is another one where I kind of paper handed it. It read so much stronger than I thought it would. This thing just kept going and going and going and going. So I'd like to see this pull back some more. How's TikTok doing? We actually got people in the TikTok chat. And YouTube's dead today. How is YouTube dead today? That's wild, dude. I've had a great week. Today's an amazing day. Everyone's preparing for the holiday guest. They're out shopping. Shopping it up. I guess I'll show you guys what I'm looking at. This is what I'm looking at. We got the chart set up. I'm watching the YouTube stream over here. Dobell Trading. Same thing on YouTube, right? My desk is a freaking disaster, so be judgy if you want, but it is what it is, man. I got like a mixed assortment of a massage gun, cat treats, extra contacts. We're watching this melt up right now. I think it wants to give another plunge, though. Imagine buying the dip. End of the year. Expected we're going to cook higher into January. After this monster run. Tesla's still like the weakest right now. Probably should have played that Tesla play bigger. It can't get it up. Can't find a blue chew. I also got to catch up on the conversation that Kathy Woods and Elon just had recently. I think Kathy also put out some content on why she actually sold NVIDIA. I should probably look into that as well, hear what the reasoning was on that. Let's bring up Apple again. Apple ended up reclaiming over the target that I was looking for. Just fine. It's fine. I got January puts. The cut for these is over 196. We get to 196. You gotta get out. We're still deep in profits though, just hanging out. Let it cook. Let it do its thing. I closed my weeklies on that first plunge and I'm just sitting in the January contracts now because I had some that expired Friday next week. And on that plunge I was like, man, do I really want Theta to cook me holding over the weekend and stuff? Probably. I mean, it's honestly good risk reward. My targets are 191. And let's see here. 191.26, 189.20, 184.95. We're getting this bounce, but it's not cooking the 15-minute yet. Apple's cooking the 15-minute a little bit. A little bit. Amazon's surprisingly strong. Baba's strong. You know what? I have Baba longs right now. How are those doing? I did go long Baba. I posted about it. This is my first time ever thinking Chinese stocks look appealing at all. I still wouldn't be an investor, but I would take a shot at being a trader here. Baba's down 2%. Let it cook. I do want to say that this is not a good sign here in the 15-minute. The fact that RSI stuck under our SMA as well. It's not a good sign. For those on TikTok, I've been trying to go live on YouTube more regularly. If you go to the YouTube stream, you can. I got my charts pulled up and everything. Sharing my trades. You can also see in the Discord how I call these trades out ahead of time. And I also post them on X as well. Great profits, great call out on Tesla today. Apple's printing. OGN's one of my longs that's doing really well right now, up 25%. It's kind of been bouncing in a range, but I'm expecting this to turn out to be some consolidation before we break higher. It's not really a catalyst for that. It's just, it's so cheap. The market cap of that company is less than their sales. I mean that right there is just a sign of like, okay, this thing's probably oversold. Book values looking really appealing. On a profitable drug company, I'll take it. I also got to put up some research this weekend and then do yearly predictions. I'll probably do my yearly predictions video this weekend. Maybe I'll do it tonight because I got a lot to do for the holidays. So I'll probably do that tonight. That's probably the plan. Yeah, Baba in the short term looks weak, but this daily about to fire to the upside on the TTM squeeze, and then the weekly also rolling over to the upside is so bullish, and the monthly, actually the monthly's showing some weakness, but we'll see if that can recover with the rest of these technicals looking relatively strong right now. I got $90 calls for, what were these? I want to say April is what I had. Yeah, I got April 19th. $90 calls. $1.30 or $2.30. I've got a cat scratching at the door trying to get in the office. It's like very distracting. It's going nuts. Apple are trying to recover and just have some chop. Looks like market doesn't want to give much more than it already has since the holiday. That's okay. We've already kind of made our money. I took a lot of profits. The rest is just swinging. I'm still on profits even right now. Fine by me, man. What a great way to end the week. This week's been fantastic. The SPY February puts are still looking nice and juicy as well. What's our VIX doing? What the VIX doing? It's come all the way back down actually from our spike. You see this thing cook over 14 again? Blood in the water. CGNY. That position's up. Holy cow, my 4 position is up huge. We bought after that earnings rally. We're up another $10. I thought I had this chart pulled up. This one isn't me. I can't take any credit for 4. I have to give all credit to a friend of the podcast, Jonah Elliott, fund manager on Twitter. Came on. What was it? Was it a month ago? No, I think it was about a month ago we had him on the podcast. He was just popping off names he liked. A big one that he loves that I did a bunch of research and equally convinced on was Celsius energy drinks, SELH. Yeah. I like that one. I traded it with some options. I haven't built up a long term yet. Let's get this chart pulled up actually here. Because it was looking kind of weak. It looked like it wanted to go through a consolidation phase. Yeah, the weekly, I don't know. Even though this weekly looks terrible, it looks kind of bottomed out. And the daily start to fire into the upside. I actually might want to start a position here. Finally. 4 hour looks strong. Your 1 hour is weak. It's bleeding on the day, but I'm not really worried about these short-term moves. The monthly's rolling over, and that looks actually awful. That looks pretty awful, actually. So I think I'd want to see this weekly chart actually cook a little bit more. If the daily fires with the weekly, I'll probably take it. That monthly does not look good. And this 4 hour is weak. The volume is really weak right now as well. This one was weird after the split. Leading up to the stock split, this was like really profitable for options trading because the bid ask was just crazy. The options were swinging like 50% just on all the wild speculation, and people were just overpaying constantly, so you could just literally just flip them in like a few minutes for massive returns. That was a ton of fun when we were doing that, especially as like more liquidity came in. Because previously, before that, and actually, I don't even know if liquidity is good right now. That might have just been like a phase the market went through. I mean, no, liquidity here is still really good. It's been so it looks like it's continued to be pretty good since then. As long as you're not coming too far out on your dates. You know, it's kind of dry on the January contracts. As far as the option market goes. There's so many people who probably bought Leafs that are deep in the money. Now, you come to January 19th, and that looks really good. That looks like a really healthy option chain. Really tight spreads. IV is 32%. Historical is 31%. It's relatively low. It's not the worst time to buy. We've got about double the calls over puts. People buying calls on the day. Keep an eye on it. Actually, I want to see. That's chewy. Yeah, OGN looks so good. Man, it looks so good. Man, the weekly is good confirmation on the weekly too. This looks great. Look at this recovery on Apple. You cut it up to your EMA clouds and testing this right now. You want to see this return to turn into resistance right here. We're coming up to the final hour of the market. Just send it. I mean, it doesn't. There's no signs of it sending it, by the way. I say that, but let's be clear. The 15 minutes rolling to the upside, RSI, sharp spike, V-shaped recovery with the 15-minute rolling to the upside. So the likelihood that this just chops into the closed, very high. Or we could even get a more substantial bounce as well. Which both scenarios I'm very okay with. It gave me a nice plummet to get out of those weekly contracts, and so now I'm just holding my Januaries. And I could be very happy about that. I could be very, very happy about that. I guess I thought I had another stand in here for my phone. I wonder. I was going to set TikTok up so they can see the screen, but I guess I'm not going to because I don't know where that is. 250 likes? Thanks, guys. Thanks. Appreciate it, TikTok. We got some folks on the YouTubes. How we doing, YouTube? How we doing, viewers? Apple could cook over here. The VIX is continuing to drop. That's not going to be a good sign in the short term to end the day. As long as we're over 13, I wouldn't get too concerned. There's still short signals everywhere. Even oh my gosh. These were great. Predictions on Solana, silver, crude, oil, and housing in the hottest cities from 2020. I don't know if I'm going to be able to give predictions on housing. The hottest cities, what would that be? Probably like Houston, Vegas, Miami, San Diego. I don't know. I just generally think that, like, I mean, we even got like rallies on housing in the Midwest, and I think that's going to be fairly stable. And then your hot spots near the coast are probably going to capitulate. Just broadly, though, there's not a whole lot of signs that like residential real estate is going to systemically crash or something like that. The corporate real estate, what did I say? Corporate, commercial, that's owned by corporate or rented by corporate, that looks like it's going to go through like a decade. I mean, it might not ever recover, honestly, with the trends changing. I don't even know if we're going to talk about Solana either. I happen to know a few things about Solana that I can't disclose. Just from knowing people. But I'll just say I'm not bullish in the short term. We'll just have to leave it at that. Silver, I like silver. Your silver miners or gold miners? Crude oil? I don't know. I haven't looked at oil, man. I guess we should look at oil. What do I think about oil? He's tested bottom multiple times. Let's look at USO. I feel like commodities did a good job of pricing in recession and equities didn't. They gotta like do catch up. I mean, USO looks like it's bottomed. Your RSI is recovering here on your weekly. And your daily. I mean, I don't really see anything obvious in the Elliott waves. Nothing really looks all that appealing. I don't know. You could probably blindly speculate here, or start a speculative position and come out okay. Okay, I gotta let this cat in the office, dude. He's been literally clawing at the door for like a half hour. Dude, you're such a punk. Holy. Okay. I mean, this spy charting might actually play out. Remember, a new high wouldn't be out of the question. But due to the fact that we have a 3.618 extension on the third wave here, means that I'm expecting a truncated fifth wave, which is very similar to what we've seen on NVIDIA on the daily chart. If you look at NVIDIA's daily chart, you see the same exact thing. Truncated fifth wave and then chop and consolidation. That continues to play out. So I'm looking for something similar on a much smaller time frame, which Elliott waves are usually the weakest on smaller time frames, the strongest on larger ones. We do have an alignment with this smaller subwave structure on our larger structure as well. And then, I mean, I'm ready for like a visit to 450 by January. Capitulation. I mean, they're really going to make me sit on these Uber puts, huh? Go really make me just sit on these. Does anyone have any questions? Anything in the chats? Anything we want to talk about? I wonder if I could actually find. I think this is looked at upon in the YouTube world, but I wouldn't mind doing a live reaction to the Elon Musk Kathy Woods interview. Which means I'm probably going to go off of TikTok Live because you guys aren't going to be able to watch this. I'd rather not listen to someone's commentary. I just want to listen to it.
We were.
All right. Go watch the YouTube, okay? Trust me, it's better than TikTok.
at Fremont doing a podcast with you when Tesla was in production hell with the Model 3. And I think you were sleeping under your desk at that time. And you gave us a lot of time to really help us understand this story and what was going to happen and the probability of failure.
Adding a ton of functionality that I think people will find useful. There's been immense progress in just the course of a year. We've accomplished more advancements in a year than I think Twitter had done in the prior at least 5 years.
We've been talking a lot about X. We know it, we own it in our venture fund, and we've been talking about the democratization that you are enabling. Just going back to Tesla, you'll remember that when you were thinking about taking it private, I implored you, no, that we've been supporting, the retail investor and others have been supporting Tesla. Don't take it private. You'll take it away this incredible growth opportunity. And so thank you for that. That was a democratization move. But Twitter.
Yeah, and I should say that that's your level with.
Sorry.
And my prediction actually is that any given social network that does not move in this direction will be swarmed with and will simply be overwhelmed.
I have an experience with that. We all of a sudden, I guess, bots were taking over. This was not on Twitter, but on X, but on Instagram and Facebook. I mean, it was just all over the place. So we've already experienced attacks like that. Can we stay on the X platform as a topic, Elon, but maybe take us a little bit more into the future about this super app opportunity? Will you become a financial platform? Identification is, we're already seeing, you're still tipping, I think, on X, but are you going to turn into a financial platform, which is where you started your entrepreneurial journey many years ago? Is this still on the drawing board?
Yeah, absolutely. We're just waiting for the final approvals to come through for the money transmitter licenses. It's just taken longer than I expected to get the money transmitter licenses.
Yes.
So
I did see you have 15 or so now, or is it more?
I think we actually have a majority of the states
have
been through this, but it's irrelevant until California and New York approve us.
I see. And are there any showstoppers, or it's just bureaucracy?
It's just, I mean, really just, I guess, bureaucracy. I think things were obviously quite chaotic, especially for the first few months. So it's not entirely their fault. We were a bit late in submitting our money transmitter licenses, and I essentially thought we had done it, but we had not done it until around the middle of this year. So I think we'll probably get our approvals early next year. And so I would expect payments to roll out. I'd be surprised if it takes us longer than the middle of next year to roll out payments. So I'm not aware of any showstoppers. Just going to work you through the system.
That'll be exciting. If you don't mind, Elon, I'd like to actually make an announcement on X, since we learned in the market that once you say something on X, it actually be public information from the SEC's point of view. We've seen that tested. And so I just wanted to announce that we're pretty excited that for the first time, beginning in January, our venture fund will be available on SoFi. Right now, if you want to buy our venture fund, the Titan app is the way to go. That's an Andreessen Horowitz funded company, and they've been great. But we are.
I made a video about how hedge funds can beat the market, how plenty of people beat the market, how many mutual funds beat the market, even when you look over a decade-long time frame or longer. I think in the video example I used 15 years. Actually, I know I did. And this comment says, past decade not equal to long run. They mean like over a century. Over a century. How long do you are we investing for elves? Are we even talking about humans at this point? What do you mean over a century? A century? None of these companies have even existed. There's not even enough data to measure over a century. The only thing there is the index. Oh my gosh! And then the market environment changes over that time frame so substantially. There wasn't even products like 401ks a century ago. The market did not function the same way. It was a different. I mean, just holy. It's so ridiculous.
Expanding, and we'd love, again, in this movement towards democratization of VC, if any other platforms want to participate in this movement, we're not exclusive, and we're very excited about the possibilities. So thank you for letting me do that.
It's also a big part bringing the broader base of a huge number of non-accredited investors who'd love to enter companies like yours, Elon, of course, and we already with the Up Venture Fund in SpaceX and X, and we'd love to do others. And really allowing, obviously your companies are extremely well funded, but for many companies, they don't have access to capital necessarily at the scale you've built without going public. So we think that's a really exciting potential for companies to stay private for longer.
That sounds great.
Yeah,
that sounds really cool. I mean, the burden of being a public company really has increased over time, such that it has somewhat dissuaded a lot of companies from being public. And I really, frankly, would recommend companies don't go public unless they absolutely have to. So yeah,
do you think that going back to like the Model 3 ramp,
and there's just a lot of.
I'm going to turn down the playback speed on this. And if someone comes in the chat and tells me is this too loud, someone just tell me in the chat.
I mean, there's more time that's required
It looks like a lot of this was actually stuff I don't even care about. Maybe AI transformers will be interesting. Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, boring company, regulation, China. War, Moon, Mars City. Advice to next gen. Actually, this looks like there was literally nothing interesting. I do want to hear comments about Starlink IPO.
To manage a public company than a private company.
So in the past, you've talked about potentially, I guess, listing Starlink or doing something on the SpaceX within the public capital markets. But do you think that's actually not something that you need to do or anticipate doing across all of your companies outside of Tesla at this point?
I don't think it's worth going public until you have maybe an extremely stable and predictable revenue stream. So if your cash flows are extremely stable and predictable, at that point, going public is less of an issue because you're just not going to have these big gyrations.
Like the point of the equity markets is to provide like perpetual capital for capital intensive businesses, right? And what you're describing is a business that actually doesn't really need equity capital necessarily. You could debt fund it to some degree if you have very stable cash flows, right?
I mean, I can equity or debt fund just about anything at this point. But it's worth noting that in all the companies across all the years, I've never lost money for an investor even once. And this is now over 100 financing rounds. Now, of course, I cannot stop people from selling when they should not sell, but I have never driven them to a bad outcome. So that's a pretty good. And obviously, when you've treated capital well, then capital it treats you well in turn. And so it's basically very easy for me to raise almost any amount of capital, frankly. Now, of course, I need to make sure that track record stays intact and not get complacent or entitled. But obviously, I do not have a need to raise capital. And in fact, in most cases, I don't really need, even for, say, like boring companies.
What a boss. I could raise any amount of capital I want because I always make investors money. What a boss, true. All the Elon haters, they don't get it.
On your Neuralink,
They're just butthurt losers. I mean, let's just be honest. There's no reason to tiptoe around it.
I mean, I could just fund it myself entirely, but I think it is good to have other investors.
Why even bother with outside shareholders at all? It'd be simpler you could take whatever risk you want without having to
I'm gonna run to the bathroom, but I'm still listening.
answer it to anybody.
Well, I do take a lot of risks either way. I don't know. I think it's good to have. I don't know. I think it's good to have other investors. I think that each investor you add is an ally. It's good to have more allies. I think it also establishes that I'm not delusional in the valuation of the companies. So if others are prepared to invest at a particular value, then I'm not the sole decider of what the value of the company is. Others are deciding what the value of the companies are. It's sort of an assessment of the value of the company. And there is also a need to provide liquidity to people at the company. So I believe in providing stock to the people at the company, the employees and creators of the company. It's important to provide them stock to have the incentive be aligned with the company outcome. And then they at various points want to gain liquidity, so that you want to then establish an outside valuation, and so it's not just me deciding it, and enable liquidity for those who've been awarded stock and options at the companies. And it's generally been my approach to award everyone at the company stock. At Tesla, we awarded everyone stock, no matter how junior they were. So that actually obviously made a lot of people millionaires. I think Tesla may have created more employee millionaires than any company in history.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, if there's a company that's created more employee millionaires than Tesla, there's one or two others, but really the sheer Tesla's around 140,000 people, and I think we might be number one. So.
I think you are. So I'm conscious of time here, and thank you so much, Elon. Frank Downing, our director of research on next generation internet, asked Grok, what questions do people want Cathie Wood to ask Elon Musk?
Okay.
And we would be remiss if we didn't summarize this first and then let you take it where you'd like it. And it basically said, it seems that, this is Grok talking, seems that people are eager to hear about the latest developments in AI technologies. We definitely are, such as FSD-12 and the next generation platform for robotaxi. They're also interested in learning more about the company's plans for the Optimus improvements in both the closed or private AI companies and models, large language models, and then the open ones. And open is behind closed, but the performance is improving at a steeper rate than closed. Do you have any thoughts about that and about open versus closed generally when it comes to AI?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think a lot of people know that I was instrumental in the creation of OpenAI, and in fact, I came up with the name. The open in OpenAI means open source,
Open, yes.
and it started as an open source nonprofit. And the reason I wanted to create it was to establish a counterweight to Google DeepMind, because it was a unipolar world at that point. Google DeepMind had probably 2/3 or more of the top AI talent, and of course, vast computing and financial resources. And at the time, I was close friends with Larry Page, and it did not seem to me that he was taking AI safety seriously. So I felt there needed to be some counterweight, some competitor to sort of the Google DeepMind situation. So, and frankly, instrumental in creating the company was recruiting Ilya Sutskever, which was a back and forth thing where actually Ilya changed his mind a few times and ultimately decided to come to OpenAI. And so I won that recruiting battle. And that is actually what caused Larry Page to stop being friends with me, frankly. But now, ironically, because fate loves irony, OpenAI is a super closed source and for maximum profit. It should be renamed Closed for Maximum Profit AI. It will be more accurate. So, because it's literally the polar opposite of how it was started. I guess I generally have a bias in favor of open source, and you can see that certainly with the X platform, where we've open sourced the algorithm, and for community nodes, we open source not just the algorithm, but all the data as well. So you can see exactly how a node was created. It can be audited by third parties. There's no mystery, nothing hidden at all.
I think that's seems to be one of the confusing things about open source as pertains to large language models is it's not as simple, and I think this has been lost in some of the debate, as just open sourcing the code. It's open source as the shades of gray here, of course, with parameter weights, data, there's all of that spectrum, and I think that's been maybe lost from some of the debate, so it's great to hear.
Yeah, there's actually very little code, very little actual traditional lines of software. Certainly at the inference level, there's very little. It's a remarkably tiny number of lines of code. So it's just these giant weights files and what your hyperparameter numbers are. And it's basically a giant comma separated value file. I always find it amusing to contemplate that perhaps our digital god will be a CSV file. And then you make a new CSV file that has maybe more weights, and the weights are better, and then you pretty much delete the old one. So just the AI is evolving and deleting its prior self constantly.
So we're going to worship a giant Excel file, essentially.
Kind of. I mean, you need a very big, it's a lot of cells, but it's really just a bunch of numbers. And then those numbers they're getting smaller in magnitude too, going from FP16 to FP32 to FP16 to int16 to int8, and now it looks like things are trending towards mostly int4. So they're not particularly large numbers. Yeah.
And back to
I'm not sure if I'm probably not answering the question, but I mean, I think it's true that closed source is not that far, from a time standpoint, not that far ahead of open source. But let's say, and if you assume open source is you have every 6 months, because of the immense rate of improvement of AI, that 6 months is actually a massive amount of time. Or at least the delta in an exponentially improving situation, 6 months will, I think, feel like an eternity. So I think closed will outperform open by a meaningful amount at any given point in time.
And given I was just going to say, given the questions we were talking about before about truth and not truth, and do you think in 10 years' time AI will have been a net truth improver or detractor from where we are today?
Well, I think it'll be speaking for at least for Grok, I think it will be a significant truth improver. That is literally our goal: is to be maximum truth seeking, maximally curious, minimizing the error perceived reality and described reality and actual reality, and always acknowledging the error, not being too confident about it. So I think that there will be a competition for truth, and people will tend towards the one that they think is most accurate. So, and if there's at least one AI that is aiming for maximum accuracy, I think it pushes all of the AIs to aim for maximum accuracy. Just as with the X platform, FK Twitter, as soon as X pushes for maximum truth and accuracy, it sort of forces the hand of others. The others now also have to do that.
Right. The truth arms race among the CSVs. And is one of our theses, I think, with ARC is that Tesla is one of the most undervalued AI companies there is, because of the insane amount of data you've got on all or to feed into autonomous. I don't know if there's any commentary on that, because I think obviously with the rise of these LLM companies, which are by and large working off essentially available data that is not proprietary, the benefits coming to the companies like Tesla that understand how to use the AI benefits, but do have these enormous proprietary data pools, seems like that's going to be the next frontier.
Yeah, I think that's accurate, an accurate description. Tesla is one of the leading AI companies in the world, and with respect to real-world AI, it is obviously by far and away the leader. The word large language model, phrase large language model, LLM, is massively overused. But what I do see happening is somewhat of a convergence towards intelligence. Tesla, like really to make full self-driving work, you kind of need baby AGI in the car, because you need to understand reality, and reality is messy and complicated. And just as a side effect, the car AI has to be able to read, for example. It has to be able to read arbitrary science as just a little side effect of understanding reality in every language. So everything is coming down to different layers of transformers and diffusion, and how you put together the transformers and the diffusion.
Does
That's why I sort of made that somewhat niche AI joke on the X platform. Who do you think will be president in 2032? Transformers or diffusion?
do you think that switching to full stack AI for Tesla's full self-driving reduces the kind of forecast error for you in terms of when the problem will be solved? As in, you famously have said it's a year away for a few years now. Do you think that like actually line of sight, wherever it ends up, you'll have a better like line of sight on when you're going to cross a particular threshold of performance where it can go without human intervention?
Yeah, I mean, the car is already incredibly good at driving itself. So now, especially if you say like, okay,
A very good use of AI that I think would have a lot of users immediately, and maybe the Billy Connolly test of can an AI actually be consistently funny? Those feel like they're out.
Grok is pretty funny.
That's fair.
I think one of our goals for Grok is to be the funniest AI. So, I mean, if you ask Grok to provide a vulgar roast, it's really good.
Speaking of Grok, to not let down our future AI overlords, the final question on the Grok summary that Kathy touched on was the future of Bitcoin. Not sure if we want to touch on that or not, or whether that's out of
Yeah,
scope.
that and then just before, I don't know if we're wrapping up here, but I'd love to talk about Bitcoin and your view of crypto assets, and then maybe back into kind of tying things up with convergences among technologies. You mentioned that a little earlier, Elon, and the impact ultimately of all of this on economic growth longer term, the surprises that might come from there. But first Bitcoin.
Okay, sure. What's the question regarding
Well,
Bitcoin?
there's when you put it, or Tesla put it on its balance sheet, there was, I remember afterwards, there was this backlash in terms of its economic impact, all of the energy usage and so forth. And then as part of the seminar that we did, that you participated in, Elon, we and Block had come up with this notion that, wait, you put Bitcoin mining into a utility ecosystem, so that if there's a storage unit and the intermittent energy, the storage unit's full, the sun is still shining, the excess power goes over to Bitcoin, and you can mint Bitcoin and overbuild solar and wind and renewables and all of that. So that argument against Bitcoin, and Larry Fink himself used it quite vociferously for a long time until recently, that is going away. What do you think about potential impact on the financial system, the monetary system, financial services generally?
Well, I have to say, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about cryptocurrency, hardly any at all. I have thought for a long time about money and the nature of money. What is money?
Yeah.
And it's really a database for resource allocation is the way to think about money, in my view. So now, fiat currency is actually fine as a database for resource allocation if you have a predictable money supply and it doesn't get inflated or deflated too much.
If it's rules-based.
If it's rules-based and provided government does not too much abuse their privilege to create more money, some amount of abuse is almost is guaranteed to happen, but it can go too far. The temptation over the ages to debase money is, I think it goes back to probably the ancient Sumerians. But but the point at which money was invented in any form, including in gold, there was unavoidable temptation to debase the money supply. So So then you think of any given money system, again, I sort of apply information theory to in a money problem. Just think of it like it's an information system. You want to minimize noise, minimize latency, minimize packet loss. And so any inflation would be adding noise to the system. If the transaction rate, if what it takes to conclude a transaction is a long time, that adds latency to the system. Fraud is kind of like packet loss. I guess I kind of think of money like I think of information moving on a network. Bandwidth, latency, jitter, which is the variance in latency, packet loss, those fundamental elements.
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch how human beings, in this case the Fed, the words they say whip around markets. And there's just something not right about that. I mean, that's my point of view. I think our point of view, certainly on the crypto team. And Art Laffer, who was my professor in school, he's supply side, Austrian School of Economics. When he collaborated on our first paper in 2018. And after he got through reading it, he said, I've been waiting for this since they closed the gold window in 1971. I've been waiting for a new rules-based global monetary system. And I think that's where our optimism comes from. This is truly rules-based. And so he's gotten more and more excited about it the more he's learned about it. So anyway, back to convergence though, and you're the maestro here. When we think of autonomous taxi platforms, robo-taxi networks, and so forth, that's the convergence of three of the major platforms around which we have centered our research: robotics, energy storage, and artificial intelligence. Each one of those technologies basically gearing up for or in the sweet spot of the S-curve. And I sort of think it of S-curves feeding S-curves and creating the potential for explosive growth that no one is expecting. And Brett has just written a paper, it should come out in the next few weeks, around this topic. Just want to get your thoughts about that. And Brett, if you wanted to ask any questions specifically about that. But the bottom line from an economics point of view is we could see very surprising uptick, not just uptick, a step function up in a real economic growth if these technologies are as big as we think they are.
Yeah, absolutely. The real economy is not money, it's goods and services. As I was saying earlier, money is really just a database for resource allocation. And but if there are no resources to allocate, or if the actual goods and services output is fixed, then you can, I guess, try to allocate that same pie but more efficiently, but it's really not nearly as good as growing the pie. So growing this output of goods and services, productivity, is really the thing that leads to prosperity. And obviously with robotics and AI, I think digital medicine through synthetic RNA, and I think these things will just massively improve productivity.
I am getting bored with this. This is no real information. This is all like recaps, which is really boring. Let's see how our short's doing. 33 likes, 8 dislikes.
Do hedge funds make money? My understanding.
What are the people saying? Calling people lazy idiots will definitely get them to see your point. Bro, I do that for the laugh, okay? It has to have a punch. I'm still making a short, right? Even though I'm giving you information, I need a punch. I need something shocking, ridiculous. And the negativity gets engagement. Don't hate that player, hate the game, all right? It just is what it is, man. I'm not like... I don't actually think these people are even idiots. I think they're just being idiots. And so there's a big difference, right? Obviously, but it's just how the game works. It got you to comment, which drives my engagement, which makes the video do better. Like, if you don't understand why I do that, like, you don't understand anything. Anyone with $1 billion can outperform SP 500 through 2 housing crises and 2 recessions. Look forward to 15 years today and ask if they're going to beat it again. First of all, anyone with $1 billion can outperform the S&P 500. No, they definitely can't. This is very obviously true historically. How many banks and hedge funds have blown up in the past 15 years? How many blew up during COVID? During the melt up, still blew up. This is just a stupid thing to say. How many banks have blown up? We just had banks blow up at the beginning of this year. SVB, have we literally already forgotten about that? Like, if you have a bunch of money, it's easy to make money. This is just cope. This is just cope from people who think that you can't do anything if you only have a small amount of money. You can't grow your nest egg, and they just say, oh, the rich just win no matter what. It's not true at all. Okay? It's just not true at all. Hedge funds on, oh, and by the way, look forward to 15 years from today. Yeah, 15 years from today. I mean, people are so saying the market's like trading up right now, but the market has literally sideways. Like, even though we've rallied hard, we still haven't broken our 2022 high, right? So, I mean, this whole idea of like everything's fantastic now. No, not really. Hedge funds on average do far worse because the point of a hedge fund is if shit happens, they do well. So if market on average does well like it has, average hedge funds do worse. Literally, this what? What? Hedge funds on average do far worse because the point of a hedge fund is if shit happens, they do well. So if market on average does well like it has, hedge funds do worse. Did they watch the video? I feel like they didn't watch the video. I literally showed you the past 10-year actually, that was for mutual funds. I didn't actually show the performance of the hedge funds. But the hedge funds, after a 10-year period, the ones I looked up had all beaten the S&P in returns. So on average, over a decade, they beat the S&P on returns. So I mean, this doesn't even make sense. This is like completely nonsensical. That and the market has basically traded sideways for the year, and you can look up plenty of hedge funds that beat the market this year. All they did was just pile into AI stocks, and they did very, very, very well. I know some that even bought energy and didn't play AI and still beat the S&P very, very well because it's sideways. It's sideways. Like, yeah, this is dumb. This is so outrageously dumb. Let's go see what dumb things TikTok is saying.
This is what happens when you play Belichick.
Stop.
This is what happens when
Bro, TikTok is set up for you to not be able to pause stuff. It's so annoying.
Do hedge funds make?
I think he means long term, like decades, not on a yearly basis. Yeah. Yeah, I literally covered the past decade. Yeah, I actually was just talking about this earlier in the live stream. Yeah, no new comments past this. Long run, like over a century. Bro, the market mechanics are not even the same as they were a century ago. It's a completely different world a century ago. None of these companies are even a century old. Like, this is so stupid. It's so freaking dumb. And I know some of you are going to be mad because you're being so mean. Yeah, you kind of got to be mean. You kind of have to be a little mean. It's like, how are you doing zero critical thinking whatsoever? Do you think about the things that you type out before you type them? There's a difference between being wrong and being like opposite of right. Like there's a difference between you got something wrong and being completely, entirely the opposite of right. Like anti-truth. It's absurd. You know what? There's no one in the stream. Market's not really moving. I don't anticipate it to move in the next 20 minutes. I'm going to say everyone have a happy holiday, and I'm going to make a Probably another short form video making fun of these comments because good content. Name of the game, baby.